So I saw Scream 6 last night. I'm not thrilled with the movie. I liked it, but I wasn't thrilled with it. Wasn't bad, but it also wasn't scary. The Scream franchise has been part of the horror film uh, genre since 1996. Since the one with Neve Campbell, Drew Barrymore, Courtney Cox, David Arquette, etc. Bella Hitch, Matthew Lillard. I had no more names than I thought I did. Um, Scream 1's a classic, in my opinion. Um, this one is, in my opinion, just another sequel in a franchise that plays into its own beliefs of how great it's supposed to be. It's almost like that quote from Peter Griffin in Family Guy when he talks about The Godfather. And people say it's such a great movie, and Peter says it insists upon itself. Like, what the fuck does that even mean? It insists upon itself? I'm sick, obviously. Not just sick in the throat and nasal passages, but also sick in the head, because I'm sure I've pissed off somebody just now by saying that Scream franchise just isn't that good. Someone asked me last night, how was it? I said, it's not scary, but it's become essentially a murder mystery pretending to be a horror film with some jump scares. That's it. I wasn't scared at all. They gave too much away in the trailer, in the subway, some other clips. I'm trying to remember what they were now. Thankfully, I'm an old fat guy. I didn't fall asleep, not even once, not even like a little sleepy. So it definitely kept me entertained um, throughout the entire film. I will also say I did have a Coca-Cola, so that helped. Um, Coke is always good to stay awake. Coca-Cola, not cocaine. I don't do drugs anymore in public. It's a joke. It's just a joke. Shit. But yeah, it's not scary at all. I'm starting to see that there are movies that are supposed to be scary that are just not scary anymore. I mean, we can go back to Halloween Ends back in October. I've loved the Halloween franchise since I first saw Halloween in 1993 when I first saw it. Obviously I was many years late, but that's when I first saw it. Obviously I was a year old when the movie came out, so I couldn't have seen it then. I wouldn't have remembered it anyway. Um, but man, yeah, this movie, Halloween Ends, was horrible. It wasn't scary at all. And now Scream 6, not scary either. Like nothing. Not even a little bit. I was watching another review, Jeremy Johns. I like him. He's got the same background he's had for like 10 years, and I loved it, the consistency. But man, uh, this was just... I don't know who's really gonna like this movie. I mean, I think essentially it's going to be an overall IMDb rating probably at about a 5.5. It wasn't scary. There's too much given away in the trailer. Um, there's always, characters from other movies are going to come back. I think we all know Courtney Cox is in the movie. Um, I'm not going to give away anyone else that comes to the movie. I'm not going to give away who the killer or killers might be. And I say that not to try to lead you one way or another. But, I mean, Scream 1 had 2 killers. Scream 3 had 1. So, and I think every other Scream movie had at least 2 killers. And you're like, what the hell? So you just never know what it's going to be in this movie. And sometimes you have, when you get the answer, you're like, oh, I should have seen that. I should have paid attention to that. Which is something I always find cool about murder mysteries is the nuances. If you remember the movie, was it not Silent Hill? Oh, Shutter Island with DiCaprio and Ben Kingsley, and watched the movie the first time, was so confused, watched it again, and it was like, now I get it. Now I get everything. It was all the nuances, all the little subtleties that I didn't see in part one. As soon as I saw, being that I already knew what was going to happen, now I got to watch the characters more carefully, and it was like, Ben Kingsley gave it away very early. This movie's now 13 years old. So there's something Ben Kingsley does in like the first, I don't know, scene or couple scenes of the movie. And I'm like, I should have seen that. Now that I've seen the movie, now it makes sense why he did this thing that way. And it was perfect. Um, so yeah, I'll give it a 5.5. I'd give it a 6 if it wasn't so. It just gets so meta. It really invests in itself in terms of like in investigating itself and pulling out all the horror movie and franchise tropes and all this kind of stuff. I mean, this is 6, so we're clearly in a franchise now at this point, right? I mean, we were in a franchise probably after the third one. When you get into 4, now you're like, all right. I mean, well, actually, I'll say that 3 is a franchise. Look at Lord of the Rings. That was definitely a franchise, right? But not to veer off the point, but um, it really talks about, I mean, it's what Randy's character did, and I know he's got the two, the niece and nephew or whatever they're supposed to be, or that's their dad, I forget. Um, that's what he does. He analyzes horror films, and so now his offspring or niece now does that. So she takes on that role. I mean, she does a pretty good job at saying her as that character, so I'll give her that credit. The two girls from the last time, the sisters, they're back. Um, who else is back that you know is going to be back? You know what? I'm not even going to say because I don't know if I remember much from Scream 5. So I will just leave that there. But there are obviously going to be new characters introduced. There are 5, 6 new characters introduced. And the movie does start off with a stereotypical opening for Scream. So I'll give it that. Like, I like the consistency with that because it's not cheesy. And the environment in which it takes place was different. It's a new city. There's a. I just got this. I saw it last night, but I forget sometimes. There's a reference in the background of one of the scenes. They're playing a movie that takes place in New York. It's a horror film that takes place in New York. Well, actually, I could say it because it all makes sense. They're playing a clip of Jason Takes Manhattan in the background in one of the scenes. And so it's just kind of funny because Scream takes over New York. So, anyway, um, little things like that. I can appreciate those little, what are they called, Easter eggs. They did a whole bunch of those for Halloween 2018, and I love that. Uh, but yeah, this movie, it's cool. It's just it's not scary. I think that's probably why I rate it so poorly in comparison to the original, which I'd probably give. And I'm not a film critic, really. I like movies, and I like to be scared mostly. Um, I'd give the original at least an 8. I'd have to go back and watch it and probably kind of peel it apart more and more and more. But I'd give it at least an 8, probably a 9 because it was scary. I was, 18, 19 years old? Had not had as much experience watching horror films then as I do now, and I'm seeing a whole lot more cliche stuff. And and Scream, when it first came out, was kind of cutting edge. And it was like, okay, I respect the hell out of this film. And it was Wes Craven, so that might be another reason why, in my opinion, the last few have fallen off from how good the original one was. And obviously, I think I think he did 2 and 3 um, before he passed. So his fingerprints are not on the franchise, obviously. But man, this movie, it's cool. You can watch it, check it out, you can enjoy it, talk about it afterwards, talk about Scream 7 possibly. There is a post-credit scene. Um, it's pretty insignificant from what I heard, and I did not see it because it took a long time for it to show. So I was like, all right, I'm not waiting another 2 to 3 minutes, another song. So I'm gonna move on from that. So, but when I heard what the post credit scene was, I'm like, I'm glad I didn't stay for that. I'd have been mad. So I would definitely say get ready for a Scream 7 because they're already filming it this year. I know we're already in March. So I would expect within a year and a half I actually don't know when they're going to start filming it, so that wouldn't be fair. But if they start filming it this year, you might expect a late 2024 release or early 2025, maybe mid 2025. I don't know if they call that second quarter, something like that. Um, it'll be fun. It'll be fun. It'll be gory. It'll be different. The killer or killers, you'll kind of suspect one, but maybe not both. And there's references to stuff, and you'll be like, "Oh, I should have caught that." And I mean, you gotta. It's a goddamn master's level thinking very quickly. This movie was 2 hours and 3 minutes runtime. So as far as actual film time where you're watching character development and story play out, we're probably talking an hour 45, hour 50, something like that. Um, so there's a lot to take in very quickly. So being that this movie is very smart, I mean, the whole franchise is very smart because it picks up on all those, like I said, those horror film tropes and stereotypes and all those kind of things, and they kind of make fun of them while also doing a very good job of doing them. Uh, it can be very confusing, and there's a lot to pick up. So if you don't pick who the killer or killers are, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. It's hard. It is hard work to do that, man. And I'm never mad at myself for that. Like, well, you know what? They did a good job of hiding that. So, yeah, I will definitely check out the next one. Hopefully, that'll be better than this one. But to be honest with you, I'm going to expect that the next one will probably get about a 5.5, 6 again, because they're just not where they could be as far as horror. I really like being scared. If a movie is scary, I'm going to rate it higher than if it's just well written. Um, specifically for horror films. The killer's chasing me. This feels like a fucking horror film right now. Oh, and I'm dead. Speaking of dead, my time is up. I am done. I have work to do. God bless. I will talk to you soon, or I won't. All right, bye.